Hey folks, welcome to another edition of My Car Guru, and I really mean it. I had something happen this morning that was pretty wild. I will take a detour from my normal route when I come to the dealership. I park in my parking place if it's available. Seems like I get no respect. So my parking place, I could put a sign up, but I've always thought that was kind of arrogant. So I think it's just kind of assumed that this is my space. But the delivery people, like the guy from, I think he's from like Advance Auto Parts, he has no respect for my parking space. But that's neither here nor there. I took a detour through the service department, which I do pretty often. Just visit with the technicians and see what's going on. I had one guy that was out day before yesterday with a back issue, and another one just had his hip replaced. So, I got to check on this, my fellow geezers. But then I saw this, it was a Nissan Rogue, and it was, the whole back end had been taken off of the vehicle, all of the bumper covers and all of that. Most of the interior was out of it. All the seats were laying around, wiring harnesses everywhere, and a tech was sitting there on a stool just kind of looking at it. And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "This is the second time I've been into this vehicle. And Lenny, let me show you a couple things." He took me over to one of the seats, and I think it was either I'm not sure whether it was the driver or passenger front seat, but it had a hole chewed completely through it. And he said, "This is what rats will do when they get into your car." So apparently there was a call sent out to the rat population of a particular neighborhood, and they said, "Let's go have a banquet in this lady's vehicle." So that's what they did. They all gathered. And one of the causes of this, according to my tech, is that people leave food in their cars, and they leave, McDonald's bags and Wendy's bags, and you name it, and they build up. Some of you do not clean out your cars very often, and it's also food that just falls off of what you're eating. It goes down between the seat and the console or whatever, and it just stays there, and it just invites critters, to come in and take up residence. So they were going through underneath the bumper. There's a vent that allows air to flow through the cabin. And they chewed through that to get into the vehicle. They're inventive folk. And they went in and they started going to town. Now, once they run out of the easy stuff, like the 3-week-old French fries, then they go for something that's very interesting. They go for the wiring. Why do they go for the wiring? Well, because the wiring in a lot of import cars and a lot of domestic cars are coated with a soy-based material. You think it's just plastic, and it is plastic, but it's made out of soy, and apparently it's pretty appetizing. So, if you ever get stranded out in a winter storm and you're getting a little hungry, just start gnawing on your wiring, and it should, make you feel better. So this is a real problem. It happened to another customer of mine who, she's a good friend. She keeps her car spotless, but her wiring got chewed up. And she had been parking, the garage was being remodeled. So she was parking it outside, right next to some tall grass, a field, basically behind their house. And little field mice went in there and just went to town. Now, the first one I was talking about, the estimate is somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. And it could be more than that. I mean, the hours and hours it takes to find every wire. Because what happened is lights start going off, check engine lights. Or the body control module is saying something's not right here. So all of the sensors that are in the bumpers, all that is operated with wires. Just everything. Everything is controlled by electricity anymore. And a lot of that electricity is running through wires that are coated in a nice little soy-based meal. It's like Dairy Queen. Like my favorite at Dairy Queen. What's yours? Most people say Blizzard. I've been eating dip cones since I was about 4, and that's my go-to. So that's what soy-based wiring coating is to a rat. It's Dairy Queen. Okay, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, in today's episode, we're going into the shop. We're going to blow some myths, if possible. If you'll just pay attention, I can save you some money. One of the things that people don't really pay attention to when they buy a new car, and they don't investigate when they buy a used car, is how often should they change their oil. Now, when you change your oil, if you go to a fast lube place, they're going to change your oil. They're going to change the filter. What kind of filter are they going to put on your car? A cheap one, an aftermarket filter, not what's recommended for your car. They're going to put what they can buy what they can pay the least for, so that they can pass that savings, supposedly, on to you. So how often should you change that oil? Well, I don't recommend that you follow the manufacturer's recommendation. I don't recommend what they recommend, because many times they recommend like every 7,500 miles, or when a light comes on and says change your oil. Now, how does that light know that it's time to change your oil? Well, it doesn't actually know. It can measure, obviously, the oil level. It can tell when a certain amount of miles have elapsed, and time has elapsed. But in reality, if you ask your technician how often he changes his oil, he's going to say about every 5,000 miles. And that's what I do. I change my oil every 5,000 miles of my vehicles, and I rotate my tires at the same time. But I also want my vehicle completely inspected. I want my brakes checked. I want take a look at my exhaust system. I want to check my other filters. Maybe I need an air filter. Maybe it's time to change my fuel filter. For those things, I'm following the manufacturer's recommendations. And where are those? They're in your owner's manual. And if you lost your owner's manual, you can find it online. It's really easy. So you can use an AI thing like Perplexity or ChatGPT, or you can just Google it. Those are good ways to find out what is recommended for your particular vehicle. I was just driving a Nissan Armada, the new Armada, and I noticed the fuel gauge was it said had 10 miles to go. I said, well, I better get some gas. This thing, somebody forgot to put gas in it or ran it all out. I looked down, it had 175 miles on it, so yeah, they ran it all out. So I stopped at the Marathon station, and I opened up the gas door, and it says, premium fuel recommended. What does that mean? Does that mean you have to put premium fuel in it? No. If it says premium fuel required, then you better put premium fuel in it, because you have an engine that is designed in a way that it runs a whole lot better and performs better overall, gets better fuel economy, better towing capacity, a whole number of things with premium fuel. It's probably a high compression engine. So if it's a normal everyday car, you're going to open it up and it says regular unleaded. And that's what I would prefer. This one said premium fuel recommended. And then it has a little statement there that said that it'll get better gas mileage. It'll perform the way it's designed to perform if you use premium. Will it hurt the engine if I use the middle grade or the low grade? No, it won't hurt anything. So that's another little myth. But you need to know what your vehicle calls for. If you run regular unleaded fuel in a vehicle that requires premium fuel, you could damage your engine. So, you're going to save, I don't know what the difference is in price now, but you're going to save a little bit of money, but it's probably not worth it. So as I always say, change your oil at the dealership that sells the brand of vehicle that you are driving. And they're going to use factory recommended parts, and they're going to check more things. They use something called a multi-point inspection form. And a lot of people say, well, that's just to sell me a bunch of stuff. No, it's not. It's to make sure that everything that they're supposed to check, the safety items and the whole shebang, as my dad used to say, is checked, and that you can feel confident your vehicle is going to run safely down the road, unless they actually check the red box. There's red, yellow, and green. Okay, green means everything's good. Yellow says, well, you're going to need brakes maybe the next time, or next time you probably ought to get a front end alignment. If it's red, do it now. And the other reason that you want to get it done at the dealership is because if you ever have a warranty problem, let's say that you have your motor starts knocking and you're about to run out of warranty. Some dealerships, first thing they check is, did you have the oil changed at the dealership? Because if you didn't, you better provide some records because the manufacturer may deny the claim. Plus, if your warranty runs out and you have a major issue, or even a not so major issue, maybe your air conditioning quits cooling, or maybe your alternator isn't charging the way it's supposed to and you need a new alternator. If you had your vehicle serviced every time at that dealership, it's very possible they'll go ahead and jump in there and save the day for you at no cost. But I can promise you, if you got it serviced at the Jiffy Lube and never darkened the door of the dealership, you're out of luck. They won't even try to help you. And this applies to if you buy extended warranty protection. If you buy a warranty that protects you, say, up to 100,000 miles or something, and you have a major failure, you better have your records because they will deny you. Some of the warranty companies are more strict about this than others. Some of them will actually send adjusters into the dealership, just as if you wrecked your car and an adjuster comes in to write an estimate. Same thing. If they come in, they may want to tear down the engine and look at the engine, the cylinder liners and the cylinder walls and the condition of the valves and the oil pan. They want to see all that stuff to see if you've been changing your oil. Because if you haven't, you're out of luck. They're not paying that claim. Okay, let's talk about a couple other issues. In terms of tires, your biggest responsibility with tires is to maintain pressure. If you maintain adequate pressure in your tires normally, they are going to wear evenly and the tires are going to last a long time. But if you don't check your air pressure in your tires at least once a month or at least every other month, then you're causing excessive tire wear, and that's on you. That's not. I don't care if it's Michelin or Uniroyal or Hankook. They're going to wear out quicker if you don't keep the right air pressures in them. And you can also put too much air pressure in them and wear out the center of the tread. But anyway, rotating your tires, that's why I have my oil changed every 5,000 miles is because, normally they used to recommend change your oil every 3,000 miles or rotate your tires every 6,000 miles, but that's not convenient. I want to get them both done at the same time. So every 5,000 miles works good for both of those. So an alignment, if you go to a dealership like mine, if you drive into the service department, there are these two towers that have like 48 laser beams that are hitting the front end of your vehicle. It's funny. It actually logs your license plate because it has a camera too, but it measures the caster and the toe of your vehicle. And if they're out, then it's going to tell the service advisor immediately, and he's going to be able to tell you, hey, you need a front end alignment. But now most dealerships don't have that, so you need to have it checked once a year. Just have them pull it on the rack and check your alignment. Or if you hit something, if you really curb your wheel really badly, that can bend something. They used to say, well, it'll knock it out of alignment. Well, if it bends something, it will. Your alignment settings are pretty much fixed unless a screw comes loose or something. But that's something you need to do. So that's all I want to say about tires. Batteries, really the summertime is tough on batteries too. There's a whole lot that is required from your electrical system in the summer, probably more than in the winter. In the winter, you just have to worry about it starting. In the summer, you've got a lot of extra stress on the electrical system due to the air conditioning going all the time. And the cooling system is working harder, and the electric fans are working harder. There's just all kinds of stuff. So check your battery. When you take your vehicle in for service, that 5,000-mile check, just have them to do a quick battery test. They shouldn't charge you anything for that. But what you want to measure is the cold cranking amps. That's how many amps your battery puts out to turn your starter and to make the thing start. And that's when the engine is cold. Not like 32 degrees cold, just not warm. It hadn't started. As far as brakes are concerned, I want those inspected too every time I get an oil change. Now, you're not going to have perfect brakes at one oil change and the next oil change they're worn out. It doesn't happen in 5,000 miles. But it can happen in 15,000 miles, especially if you're one of those two-footed drivers. Are you a two-footed driver? Stop that. Your right foot is supposed to control the brake and the gas. Your left foot is supposed to just lay there, unless you have a clutch. And then it has a job to do. Okay, check engine lights. Do not ignore check engine lights because you will destroy your catalytic converter if you do. You know, your gas and air mixture, that's important. And all the sensors on your car, the O2 sensor that's sniffing your exhaust and the map sensor, all these different things that are in your vehicle, they're designed to keep your engine running at within certain parameters. And if the air-fuel mixture gets off, then you're going to use more gas. You're going to, get poorer fuel economy. Performance is not going to be as good. And it causes a lot more heat in your combustion chamber and through your exhaust. And that can destroy your catalytic converter. They aren't cheap. And if that gets stopped up, you're dead in the water, as they say. So, you have a lot of dashboard warning lights. If you can see them and they're not covered up with pictures of your grandchildren and children and dogs, what else? That's about it. So keep those pictures away from your instrument cluster so that you can see if a light comes on or if your temperature gauge, if your temperature starts creeping up. If all of a sudden, it's not unusual for cars to run a little bit hotter in hotter weather. But if it's getting really hot and you really aren't aware of the normal operating temperature at higher temperatures, which you should be. If you look in your owner's manual, it'll tell you how hot your car should get. If it gets beyond this point, there's a problem. And if it gets really hot, you pull over. You do not run a car that's running really hot. You pull over and let it cool down because you can destroy your engine. You can blow a head gasket. I'm not talking about getting mad. I'm just talking about the engine blowing a head gasket, and that can destroy your engine. Let's see, weird noises. Do you have any weird noises in your car? I've got one in my Porsche. When I lug it, you know what lugging it means? That's when you're in a too tall of a gear, like I'm in third, but I should be in second, and the engine lugs a little bit. There is a buzzing noise coming out of my dash. And that buzzing noise is probably two pieces of plastic or two pieces of metal or whatever that are right up against each other, and the car starts to vibrate a little bit because I'm lugging it. That's my fault. And it goes buzz, and that's irritating. Is it my fault? You could say that. Now, I take that to the dealership, Porsche dealership, and I say it's buzzing. And they'll say, when does it buzz? And I say, when I lug it. They say, well, don't lug it. Because I don't want them tearing my dash out to fix that. There's some things you just would prefer that the shop not do. And one of those is to tear your instrument panel completely out of your car. When do we have to do that, Lenny? When you have a leak, when you have a wiring problem, when you have a rattle in your dash. Those are the times. I see these technicians of mine, and occasionally they have to completely disassemble a dashboard. And when I go out there and I look, I say, how in the world do you put this back together? First question. Second question, do you ever have any bolts left over or screws? And of course, they always say, no, never. But I'm not sure. But if you have a problem like that, you got to really evaluate whether you want to do something about it or not. Sometimes the fix is worse than the problem, and you have to think about that sometimes. Okay, I'll take my last break, and I'll be back and wrap this up. Okay, I want to get into the interior just a little bit. Interior protection, especially leather seats. If you've got leather seats in your car, they're not designed to just be left alone for your entire ownership period. Once a year, at least, you should clean them with saddle soap and then moisturize them. I mean, there's all kinds of products that are designed to do that. And if you do that, they'll look just about as good as they did when they were new 3 or 4 years from now. Matter of fact, they even might get a nice little patina to them. But what happens is people just ignore them, and where they get in and out of the car, it rubs that outer bolster, and it gets cracked and it starts looking bad, and people just ignore it. They just think, well, this is a cheap car. No, it's got leather seats. I mean, when you have leather shoes, do you just wear them and wear them and wear them and never polish them or do anything? Well, some of you don't, but you should put something on them. They'll last longer. And they make stuff to put on your dash that will also moisturize. Believe it or not, it keeps the plastic in better shape. I mean, unless you're driving a high-end Mercedes or Porsche or something like that, your dashboard may look like leather, but it's not. And it deserves some care as well to keep it from cracking, especially if you keep the car for a really long time. And one more annoying thing, have you ever noticed that if you don't clean up your car very often and you're driving down the road, especially at night, your windshield just looks real foggy. You just can't see out of it. And matter of fact, when you rub your finger on it, it even feels greasy. What's that? Well, that is stuff that comes off the seats and the plastic in your interior. Over time, it leaches out into the air, to the environment of your vehicle. And it settles everywhere, but especially on the windshield. But you don't know how many people, well, you probably do, that go through a car wash, then they circle on around and they go to the vacuum cleaners and they vacuum their car. And I'm proud of you for doing that because it gets rid of those 3-week-old French fries and, other things. But they don't ever have any glass cleaner with them, and they don't have good glass cleaning towelettes or towels or whatever. Keep some glass cleaner in your vehicle, and keep some plastic dressing that you can spray on the plastic parts. Don't use that Armor All stuff. That real greasy kind of stuff. You can buy stuff that's a whole lot better than that from auto parts stores. Meguiar's makes some great interior detailing liquids and sprays. And one of the things that irritates me is that these designers for interiors, they like to create these little places where dust and dirt can collect, and you just can't get to it with a rag. You wipe over it and it won't get down in there. So I always keep a little detailing brush in my car. I know, I'm weird. But I use it and I clean it out. And I also don't like this piano black that they use for trim because it shows every fingerprint. And then on your screens, if you have a big screen in the middle, your infotainment system, or your dashboard, and it has where your speedometer and all that other stuff is, behind all those grandchild pictures, you got to clean that with the right things and the right kind of rag, or you'll scratch it. So you don't want to scratch it. A lot of manufacturers include one of those microfiber cloths, and that's what they want you to use. You don't want to spray it with Windex and just start rubbing with a paper towel because you've just scratched the whiz out of it. So in summary, keep the rats out. Get rid of all that stuff. Pay attention to some minor details. Know where your owner's manual is. Take advantage of this knowledge. It'll save you now, and it'll save you later when you try to trade your car. Give me a call or send me a text, 423-552-2020, and I'll see you next time.